Hello, welcome to day number 71. Thank you for being here. Today is shadow work day. Today is integrating and alchemizing some darkness, some inner darkness that has been triggered up. And there's so many directions I want to go with this, but I guess I'll just start by saying there was this ride when I was a little kid in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was at this theme park, this water park called Wet and Wild or something like that. And what it was called the black hole. And what it was is you get on this tube and you just go flying down this crazy like water slide that's completely enclosed and encased, and like no light is in it except for every now and then there's like little slits of light, little cracks of light. And you go down this ride as a kid and you're just fucking terrified the whole way, and you're screaming, you're basically in tears, you're like, you just want it to be over. You think you're gonna die, you literally think you're gonna die several times on it. You think it's never gonna end and you're just gonna be stuck in this pitch dark slide for the rest, like forever. And that you think everyone forgot about you, like when you're on the slide, like as a little kid, you're thinking all these things. And then all of a sudden, you go out of it and you fly into this huge body of water, and your family's there laughing and smiling at you. The sun's coming down on you, and you feel so amazing. And you feel like, and you just, like, you have tears in your eyes, but you're laughing and you're crying at the same time. And then you go hug your family, and you're like, I did it. And then they're like, yeah, you did it. Was it fun? And by the end, you're like, yeah, that was awesome. Let's do it again. That is what our soul does. I think that our soul knows what it's choosing when it wants to go on this ride, right? Of spiritual awakening, of a kundalini awakening. Because it knows by the end of the ride that we'll be willing to do it over and over and over again. And that's kind of what shadow days are like for me these days, is like, I know what it's about, and I know I'm always willing to take the ride, to go into the darkness, to embrace my the unintegrated aspects of myself, my unconsciousness, if you will. Because I know that on the other side is this beautiful, warm, like sunny, amazing place. And I think when we're first going through a spiritual awakening, it's that ride. You're taking it for the first time. Your soul knows what the ride is. Your higher self has chosen the ride for you. But the human that's taking the ride for the first time, the ego, the mind, thinks that it's the end of your life, thinks that it's never going to end, is just super terrified and resists the ride the whole way down and just wants it to end the whole way, right? But then when it finally does end, the human can look back at it, at the dark night of the soul, at the black hole theme ride, and it can say, wow, that sure showed me a lot about myself. I sure learned a lot about what's inside of me. Like, in a sense, you climbed Mount Everest, and you have this really satisfied feeling as a little kid when you get out of the theme ride or the water slide, and then as an awakening being when you start coming out of the dark night of the soul. And if you're in the dark night of the soul right now, know that this is waiting for you, that warm, sunny body of water is right there, and you're going to come splashing into it. And you're going to feel reborn, because you will be reborn. Because that old self, that illusionary self, that's just fear programming and rooted in lack and all that, this ride is helping you let go of it. You're shedding that self when you're on this ride. It's like the little kid. When I was a little kid, I would be going and I'd be crying and I'd be screaming and I'd just be panicking literally the whole ride. The first time I ever rode it, I was panicking the whole time. But then, it finishes. And those tears, instead of tears of fear and terror and this is too overwhelming, I hate this, I want this to end, they turn into tears of joy and elation and euphoria. And then you take the ride again, but you take the ride as a newer self, as a more, even as a little kid, like even a more evolved self, and a self that understands what the ride is this time, that sees it for what it is. And the second time you take the ride, the third, the fourth time, you take it all summer. Because you start trusting the ride more, because you know the ride ends. And you know, you like know the churns and like where you are on the ride more. Like, okay, now I'm about at the halfway point. This peak of this little light shining in tells me I'm halfway. And then you start to embrace the ride, and then you start to love the darkness. And then you just want to, you see what the darkness does for you. You see that you need the darkness to appreciate the light at the end. Because without the darkness, without the fear, without that uncertainty, that's what it is. The uncertainty as a child when you're riding that ride, and when you're in the dark night of the soul, it's that uncertainty that allows for the growth, that allows for the transformation of self. So when that happens and that part of you is shed, that fears the uncertainty and the unknown, and that you start embracing the uncertainty and the unknown, that's when you come out. And there's the light, there's the sun, there's the warmth, And so I hope that is helpful. That's what came through in my meditation. And I was thinking, do I really want to use that as a metaphor? But I hope that's helpful. And what we're seeing right now is so much in the collective. If you look around, so many people, humans are realizing how little their agenda matters. You can look around and see so many people facing such deep uncertainty for the first times in their life. And you can see them realizing how little their own agenda, or even the human agenda, or even a country's agenda, or the world's agenda matters, and how little power it has, because people are realizing there are so many more powerful forces at work. People are realizing, wow, how inconsequential their personal wills are, or in their egoic self and their egoic desires are, compared to the universal will, the cosmic will, God's will, the divine will. All of these powerful forces at work that are transforming this earth right now, that are literally like putting us on this course of mass awakening, because this is what this uncertainty is doing. And so you see people realizing this, like, oh shit, we really don't have any control here. And you can see the myriad of different responses to that recognition that's appearing for people, that they really don't have any control over events right now, and that it's actually a higher power is in effect. And as light workers, as awakening beings, we've been through this, right? We've been on that ride before. We've been through the dark night of the soul, where we faced our uncertainty. We've faced knowing how little control we have. Like in the dark night of the soul, or when you're a little kid on the black hole ride, the water slide, you realize, holy shit, I don't have any control over this. And then the only option in a true dark night of the soul, the only option is surrender, right? The only option on that ride, that terrifying ride as a kid, is to just let go and take the ride. And so as people start realizing this on a global scale, on a collective scale, people who aren't spiritual, as they start seeing that there aren't many options right now except to just embrace the unknown, because we have been through this as light workers, as awakening beings, and we're already at a place where we have had to embrace the unknown and the uncertainty. Of course, it's our role right now to hold space for those who are just coming into that unfoldment, who are experiencing this type of uncertainty and the unknown for maybe the first time. And realizing what kind of response we had when we were facing the uncertainty and the unknown in our dark nights of the soul for the first time. We were the kid on the slide crying, terrified, screaming, wanting it to end, grasping for control, wanting the control back so badly, thinking we were going to die, literally die, physical deaths. At least I did. Because I know we die in other ways, right? We have some very deep ego deaths. And now we're watching other people face uncertainty for the first time. And it helps us to have compassion about the reactions and responses we're seeing around the world right now. And even if it's people close to you, in your community, political leaders, whoever, right? Whoever you're seeing with these responses, harken back, and then what we can do is we can hold space with more compassion and more of an understanding. And we can also know, this is really important, that things a lot of times have to get worse before they get better. Look at our own awakening paths. How everything, some of us, most of us, maybe all of us, had to lose everything. Had to hit rock bottom. Had to feel so more pain than we knew a human capable of feeling for a long time. Had our bodies overwhelmed with fear and anxiety and panic. How we couldn't think straight forever, like the symptoms go on and on and on. How we got physically ill for long periods of time. How we had chronic fatigue. How we couldn't do anything. How we couldn't hold a job. How all our relationships fell apart. We lost all our money. Had to rely on people for support. And a lot of us, that's new to us, right? Because so many of us I know were like these self-willed, self-determined people who didn't ask anyone for help before the awakening, right? But the dark night of the soul takes all of that and we hit rock bottom. Suicidal, if you're like me, very suicidal for a while. But because of hitting rock bottom, that's how we cleared the space. Because of losing everything and we're hitting rock bottom, that's how the space was opened up for a new self to be born. Or you could say for our real self to be discovered. And that is if you can zoom far enough out from what's happening in the collective in the world right now, taking away all the storylines, there's a million storylines we could put towards it, conspiracies, this angle, that angle, I get all that. And I'm not saying they're not true or false or whatever, But what I'm saying is if we zoom even further out from that, if we can just look at this from the perspective of the higher self, seeing that the world itself has a higher self, just like we do. And we can see how sometimes things need to get worse before they get better. Like I've talked about in other videos, there's A energy and B energy. A energy is a win-win-win, right? A win for you because you get financial abundance, a win for the other because you helped somebody out or the company helped somebody out and helped them change their life, and a win for the environment because it was sustainable for everybody, the animals, the plants, the trees, the cosmos, the galaxies, everything, right? Win-win-win. Well, right now, you're seeing so many win, lose, lose companies falling, not being supported anymore. And that's what all the stress is about people with their human agendas, realizing how insignificant those agendas are because of so many more powerful forces that are impacting everything. You see humans clinging to these B energies, not wanting to let them go. And realizing at the same time, like, oh shit, there's no choice because I'm really not in control. And that's what all this stress is. And for a while, like I said, in our own awakenings, things had to get worse before they got better so we could have the space for a rebirth. Same thing in the world right now. Things have to get worse, meaning those win, lose, lose, B energy companies have to start falling, right? And as they fall, there's going to be massive stress, anxiety, fear, panic, anger, conflict, all of this. Because things are getting worse before they get better. And as things get worse, if we can see it for what it is, that it's just a mass awakening, we can hold this, we can be the peacekeepers, the way showers. We can be anchoring the light, anchoring love, anchoring peace, stability, fearlessness, openness to the darkness, right? Not resisting how things are. Finding deep acceptance in that things are getting worse before they get better. And as things fall away, as these win, lose, lose companies and energies and these B energies fall away, guess what? They go and things got worse for a while, but then in their place, now there's the space for these A energies. These win, win, win start being birthed. This is new earth on a global scale. Yes, we are birthing new earths in ourselves. We are unlocking grids within ourselves. We are going to 5D within. And now we are going to start seeing that on a global scale. And so do have trust that this is just part of taking that slide. Taking that slide where things get, that first time you do it as a little kid, you're sure you're fucked. You're sure you're not going to come to the other side of it. And you're sure that was the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Same like in a dark night of the soul. But when you come out of it, there's that sunlight. There's the people you love there. There's that, oh, that water feels so good. That's it. There's going to be those A energy companies that are going to be thriving. A energy people are going to be thriving because they're going to be embodying new earth and showing others that they can also live that way, right? They're going to be being an example. Companies and people that are thriving are going, and that's going to really influence others to help them let go of the B energies even more, of the old structures even more. And for us to hold the space for the mass amount of fear and uncertainty and anger and, just overall upheaval basically going on right now through this mass awakening, we've got to be willing to face everything in us that we're afraid of too, right? So that's why days like today, we embrace shadow work. We welcome up the fear. We welcome up the anger, the grief, whatever it is for you. Because we know that's what our role here is as light workers. Our role here is to bring the dark home into the light. And sometimes we forget that part. I was talking to Atmo on comments, in a comment of one of my videos, and she said something beautiful like that about, as light workers, we're here to bring the darkness home into the light. Whether we perceive it outside of us, in the collective, and all the things that are going out there, or within us. Because we've all taken this ride before, right? We've all taken this ride. And it's a ride. It's a thrill, and that's why our soul chooses to come here at such a crucial and important time, because we knew it was going to be a ride. But it's the best ride. It's the best ride available right now. It's an amazing time to be alive. When you zoom far enough out and to see the big picture of it, what an exciting time to be alive. Your human down on earth might have other ideas about it, just like the human on taking the slide for the first time is not thinking it's such a fun ride. But when we get to the other side of it, we say, wow, that was incredible. Let's do it again.